Today is all about real careers, real stories, and real pathways here at the Greater Whitsunday Region. You'll be hearing from young professionals who have been where you are. They're just a few steps ahead and they're willing to share what they've learned along the way, covering industries such as technology and innovation, environmental sustainability, health and community. Here in our region, industries are evolving, new opportunities are emerging, and there's a strong demand for people who are curious, adaptable, and open to learning. This project is proudly funded by the Queensland Government through its Workforce Participation Fund. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Ashleigh, who will be guiding us through today's conversation. Over to you, Ashleigh.
Thank you, Tayah. Thanks for the introduction. So I'm Ashleigh. I work in comms and marketing here at RIN. I've got a background in digital media. And while I somewhat feel like I've got it figured out right now, I definitely remember when I was younger and I had no idea just the ways to get there. I've just been talking to the crew about that idea of that big wall between where you're right now studying and the quote unquote real world. I felt very lost at that time. So I think a resource like this would have been really helpful. I'm born and bred local. So I've went to uni here regionally as well. And my job today is basically just going to be keeping things flowing, asking the questions that you might be thinking, and just exploring the different ways that we can help shape your future. So the whole point of today is not about having everything figured out. It's not about giving you the path. It's about helping realize that it's your path and your journey. And we'll see through some of our great panelists that everyone has had their own journey, all very different, unexpected sometimes, and just find out how they've got into what they're doing now, which are in some really, really exciting spaces. Forgive me for my notes. What we're going to be doing is speaking to three really incredible people who are locals, professionals working across tech innovation, environment, sustainability, and also health and community. They're going to share for them what's been working, what maybe didn't work out, and some of the things they wish they'd known at your stage of life. So as the host, I'm just going to ask you to listen with curiosity, take note of anything. Again, sometimes it feels like a big knowledge gap from where you are right now and where you think you want to be, or where you maybe envision yourself in the future. So anything that's going to help you spark a new idea, help see a new possibility, or even challenges an assumption that you have about yourself or your space, jot it down. You can always come back to it later. We do have that Q&A function as well, so you're welcome to submit questions at any time. You can do it anonymously if you prefer, but of course it is a safe space here. We're going to be getting through as many of these as we can kind of later in the session. We're running a bit quick actually, because I am a fast talker, so make sure to pull me up if I'm going too quickly. But I want to just introduce you to this panel. So I've just spent a little bit of time chatting with them over the last few days, but what we'll do is we'll let them come on the screen, and I'm not going to give you big, boring, formal introductions about their incredible successes and achievements and journeys. I'm going to let them say it in their own words. So basically, I'm going to start with Georgia. So Georgia's going to be our environment and sustainability guru, and I'll let you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Thanks, Ash. So unlike you, I'm not born and bred local. I grew up in Queanbeyan, which is a little town just on the border outside of Canberra, so our capital territory. I went to public school, Caraba High School, and really wasn't thinking that I would end up in the environment and sustainability space at first. And that really came about. I went to an open day for a uni. I saw a lady there who had little batons. They're like little marsupial animal. And she was telling me about her work in environment and sustainability. And up until that point, I really didn't think it was an option. So that was probably a moment that I went, oh, okay, I can work in this space. I'm currently working at Greater Whitsunday Alliance, or GW3, as a project coordinator here in decarbonisation and also biomanufacturing. So a bit of a span there. And that came from originally, I was in consulting at KPMG, so one of the big four consulting firms. So a bit of a shift there, lots of different spaces, done some different volunteering-based work in some other environment areas. So probably a good example of the breadth of work that you can do in environment and sustainability. But that's me.
I think just as impressive as I know you to be, having seen some of your speeches and stuff before. So I'll throw it over to Harry. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey, how you got here.
Hey, I'm Harry. So I studied down in Brisbane. I'm also not from the Whitsunday region. And I think if you asked me sort of 11 years ago when I finished high school whether I thought I'd be working in robotics in Mackay and having a house here, that I wouldn't have picked it. I had an interest in architecture. I went to a lot of careers expos down in Brisbane when I was in high school trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I ended up settling on engineering. Robotics was quite new at the time in the sort of field of engineering, and I decided it looked like fun, so I'd give that a go. I did a minor in medical engineering because I thought that the crossover with prosthetics was interesting, and I kind of thought that I'd end up working in that space when I left. And then I got work experience with a company here in Mackay that worked in underground coal mining automation, so completely different. And then I really enjoyed that, and they offered me a job, and I didn't really have any reason not to give it a go. So I just thought I'd move up here. My first project was actually with a different company working at a sewage treatment plant of all places. So it was not a glamorous start to my career, but I learned a hell of a lot from that, and then settled in Mackay and worked there for a few years. And then the opportunity came up to work with this company where I work now with a welding robot. And they just told me that they had a robot. I didn't really know what that meant. At the time, I didn't know what I was walking into. And I walked in here to do a tour, and this robot sort of fills a room. It's enormous. It's one of the biggest installations, I think, in the Southern Hemisphere. So I was surprised to find that in the Whitsundays, and I thought, yeah, this is a place I want to work. Stuck around. So that's me.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, that tech and innovation space, obviously pretty big right now. And I know, yeah, as someone, a fellow in the kind of MET space, that there's so much of it in our industry right now, and it's moving really, really quick. I'll finish up with you, Tayah, our other local. So you're going to speak, you're in that health and community space. So give us a little bit of an idea about how you got there, what you've been up to.
Thanks, Ash. I'm Tayah. I'm a physio at Mackay-based hospital. I'm in my second year, so I'm still a baby. I'm a new grad. I grew up in Mackay, born and raised. I went to school at Holy Spirit. So in terms of like choosing physio, I had no idea what I wanted to do until I was actually signing the application form, where you had to like kind of preference. So I was tossing up between dentistry, medicine, physio, and midwifery. I knew I wanted to do the medical field, but I had no idea like what I wanted to actually be doing. I guess it came down to I loved HP, I loved biology, and I didn't want to study for 6+ years medicine. So I Googled physio, and that was the closest thing to it. And then, yeah, went to Townsville 4 years at James Cook University, where I studied. And yeah, so a year of that study was actually of placements. There were 5-week blocks all around Queensland. So I went to Mount Isa, I went to Brisbane, Cairns, Townsville, and here in Mackay. All different placements from hospitals to private. But yeah, at the end of the degree, decided to move back to Mackay. Biggest draw card for me, though, was definitely my family and that familiarity environment coming back to. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yes, I'm a big fan of locals staying here in the Greater Whitsunday region. I think there's a bit of a misconception that to stay in your hometown is a bit of a failure, but I think that people like yourself are showing that no, there's huge successes to be had at home and lots of those creature comforts like the family as well. All right, so thank you for everyone. As you can see, everyone's had a really different pathway to get where they are and are working in hugely different spaces. But that blend today is going to be really, really helpful just to see what opportunities are available in this Greater Whitsunday regions. So what we're going to do, though, is break it down a little bit more detailed, what we're going to call industry spotlights. So we're going to start with Georgia with environment sustainability. Again, this is a huge space right now. There's really cute marsupials that obviously entice people to join the space. So there's lots of different pathways to get there. What we're going to do is set the scene a little bit more. We've got a short video we're going to play for you guys that just shows what's going on locally with this industry. It's evolving massively, and just some of those opportunities that it can offer you. So we'll run that one now.
Make an impact, protect our future, right here in the Greater Whitsunday region. Use your skills to create real change. Get the skills to turn care into real action for our environment. Connect with sustainability mentors through Greater Careers Connect. Big careers, bright futures. Think Greater Whitsunday.
All right, welcome back. So that video is just going to give a good snapshot of what working in the environment sustainability space looks like here in the region. So Georgia, we're going to pass it over to you. So your journey really shows how being curious and open to opportunities. As you said, you weren't really planning in some ways to go down the path you ended up, but it can lead you somewhere you might not expect and somewhere that you're now obviously thriving and loving by all accounts. So for students, it can sound really, really broad, this space. So you studied in Canberra. What did your first role in the space actually involve? I know that there's lots of focus on when you're in uni, okay, what's my first step going to be? So what was the first role kind of look like to you, and how is that going to change from what you're doing now?
Yeah, so it definitely is broad, and I think it can seem overwhelming, but that's also one of the really exciting parts about this space is that you can be interested in the environment and sustainability, and you can find your niche of what you want to do. And if you change your mind, you can switch into something else still in the same space. So I am, for reference, 25 and up to probably have had about 4 or so roles within that time in this space. So that kind of shows what you can do in that time period from when you graduate. 2 roles I'd probably consider as like my first roles. The first, I did a volunteer position with Plastic Oceans Australasia in ACT. And essentially I watched the Plastic Oceans documentary, and it was really interesting. That was another kind of key moment for me that went, yep, I'm definitely studying in the right space. And at the end of this documentary on Netflix, it said, if you're interested in volunteering, contact us here. And I was like, great, okay, I'm doing that. They didn't have anybody at that point in Canberra volunteering. So I became the education officer for the region. And what that looked like was going into primary school and high schools and doing education programs with them around plastic use. So helping them understand what their current activities and impacts were, and then looking at ways that they could reduce it. So very much around youth empowerment and making sure that they have the skills and knowledge to know that they can kind of make change at that grassroots level. So I did that in, I want to say, my first and second year of uni. And then at the end of my second last year of uni, I found the opportunity to do a vacation program with KPMG. And what that looked like was basically going in my uni period break at the end of the year, spending 6 weeks working with them to get an idea of the different sort of spaces of what you could do in consulting. In Canberra, that obviously looks like a lot of government clients, so working with state and federal government on different challenges that they have, but also a lot of private clients. So did that 6-week internship with them, got to try out lots of different spaces, and I was lucky enough to get offered a grad role, but also an undergrad role with them. So I then spent the last year of my degree working part-time at KPMG, so working on a whole range of different projects, from things like the climate and health strategy that the Federal Department of Health did, working with private clients to assess what their current environmental impacts were and how they can improve, particularly around, companies like mining and things like that. So obviously already there, those first 2 roles, very different types of work, but, really exciting space that you can impact environment and sustainability in different ways. So yeah, they were probably the 2 key ones. And as, like I said, very different.
Yeah, massive contrast there from like a Netflix kind of call to action to one of their big 4s is huge. I think even just what you said, the flexibility and the amount of moving around you've been able to do and like kind of try so many different things. I'm a big proponent of that as well, of while you're at uni, trying a few different hats, have a go at a few things, and it'll give you a good taste for what's to come. So given all of the things you got to try, what was kind of that moment that clicked for you that said, yep, this is what I'm definitely supposed to be doing?
I think it's probably a series of moments. So like I said, in year 10, when I went to this, open day, I saw these people working in environment and sustainability and had studied the degree that I ended up doing, which was a Bachelor of Environment and Sustainability. So that was a moment where I realized I could take that interest and passion into work. Before that, I was looking at things like Tayah's path of physiotherapy, but decided I didn't like touching old people, so it probably wasn't for me. But yeah, I realized at that point that there was options in this space. As I said, small things like the documentary, right, where you go, there's a little call to action that you then consider, oh, maybe this could be a possibility. I think a lot of us have those moments, but we then don't act on it. I did act on it, and so that kind of helped continue to reiterate to me that it was the right choice. And then I think joining KPMG and being in that big, consulting world, where in the Canberra office alone we had 1,000 people, so massive space. That was really good too, because it showed me the breadth of opportunity at, getting access to people who have worked in the same space as me, but also in lots of different areas was really beneficial.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. Like I said, that breadth is really, really cool. I mean, again, as someone who's only ever lived and worked in Mackay, to have 1,000 people in an office is a crazy thought. So yeah. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm probably never going down the touching old people path either. So we can stay here. All right, thanks for sharing that and giving us insight into what you're doing. We're going to jump over and chat to Harry about some innovation technology. So for this next industry spotlight, we've got innovation and technology. So where problem solving, creativity, and new ideas are shaping the way that industries work. To set the scene, we're going to look at another quick video that highlights what's happening in the region, some of the cool opportunities that are coming up. And then we'll chat to you, Harry.
Start your career here in the Greater Whitsunday Region. Tech skills open doors to every industry. Explore your tech future. Connect with a local mentor through Greater Careers Connect. Big careers, bright futures. Think Greater Whitsunday.
Yeah, cool. I recognised another great video, but I recognised a lot of those sheds from some of our member businesses and little tours we've done. There's, as I was saying before, some really, really cool stuff going on in the space around the Greater Whitsundays region. Harry, we're going to throw it to you then. So you moved to Australia from England when you were quite young, and you wanted to study engineering robotics at QT, as you told us about. When you were studying and you were coming right towards the end of the degree, there's sometimes a bit of pressure and nerves again about what's next. How clear were you about what was going to come next for you, and what did those first steps look like?
I wasn't particularly clear. I mean, I'd chosen to study things that I enjoyed, so robotics, and again, just having an interest in prosthetics, sort of the crossover between robotics and medicine. Again, with no desire to touch old people, but there was no real resource on how to take those first steps. It was just sort of understood that you would apply for a lot of different jobs in the area if you wanted to stay, or try and apply elsewhere. And I would go to the sort of engineering, the engineering club dinners, and listen to people talk. But they would sort of talk about their career now and what they were doing. It was exciting. They didn't really talk much about how they got there, where they started, or whether they sort of pivoted from one completely different career to another. So it was really through looking for work experience that I was able to build connections just through, the work that I'd done, and sort of trying to really take that in my stride and do good work with the experience that I had to do. And I was just fortunate to get a work experience in Mackay, and then to get offered a job from that as well.
Yep.
So there was no great resource when I was in uni for that, unfortunately.
No, I think that's a common experience for lots of people, and I think something that you've both touched on is it's that idea of community and being proactive. That lack of clarity sometimes is actually the best thing, because you out there to explore and see what is possible. So I'll probably ask you a pretty similar question, is that kind of what was that moment experience or whatnot that really solidified it to you that, if you had that lack of clarity before, what was that moment of clarity where you said, yeah, this is what I want to be doing for my career?
I think when I first got to see the interesting engineering projects that were available up here. So I came here with no real understanding of the kind of equipment that it takes to mine coal. I mean, it turned out to be quite a fascinating industry in terms of mechanical and electrical engineering, and then with the new technology that they're trying to bring into that industry. So to come here and stand next to some of the equipment that was absolutely enormous, and to see the other engineers who seem to be working on really interesting projects, that kind of sort of solidified for me that it was a good place to be. And if I was interested in it, it didn't matter too much about sort of thinking far forward in my career. I thought, well, I'm going to enjoy this work and there's plenty to do here. I should just take a chance and give it a go. So it was really the work experience for me that kind of solidified it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think something that you've touched on, which is really, really important for people to understand, is that you've got to enjoy what you do. Like it's really, and again, you've a lot of those buzzwords about interested, and it was something you're fascinated by and whatnot. I think it sounds a bit woo-woo, but you've kind of got to be led sometimes a little bit by your heart and your emotions when you try these things out. And if it's really not interesting and it's boring you to do these tasks, it's probably not something you're going to be able to do for an extended time as your career and like enjoy and I guess not face that burnout that we all talk about.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to take that opportunity. And I think to make the most of the region, if you're going to move, I think the trap that I ran into was not enjoying what the region had to offer. I threw myself into my work a lot because I really enjoyed it. And then when I sort of left that job, I kind of realized that I hadn't built like a social network here. I moved here and know no one. So that was the important kind of missing piece of the puzzle that made me stick around a bit more. So.
Yeah, perfect. It's that old work-life balance, but I think it's that you can kind of have your cake and eat it too as well. You can enjoy work and you can enjoy home. Like we're very lucky, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'm gonna jump over and finish up with our final industry spotlight, which is health and community, aka touching old people apparently. So health and community is where people focus careers and meaningful impact come together in really powerful ways. So you guys have probably guessed it. We're going to watch a video first that's just going to highlight the careers which are making a difference across our Greater Whitsunday region.
Make an impact, care for our future, right here in the Greater Whitsunday region. Get the skills to turn your compassion into real support for others. Your skills can change lives in our community. Connect with health and community mentors through Greater Careers Connect. Big careers, bright futures. Think Greater Whitsunday.
Awesome. We'll jump to you, Tayah. So again, you grew up in Mackay, another local girl. So same type of question to you. When you were coming right towards the end, I know you said early on you weren't quite sure exactly what field you wanted to go into. When it came to the end of your degree, what were you kind of thinking about, and what were those first steps looking like?
First, we don't just touch old people. I promise we do a lot more than that. It is a bit of it though. But throughout my degree, I guess the biggest part of like kind of what direction I wanted to go through came out in placement. So that year of placement at the end. Going into physio, I had no idea what it was. I never been to one, never really seen one in action. So I was very much naive to the scope of physio. During the placements though, I thought physio was like sports, getting people back to like post-injury, back to playing sport in teams, all that sort of thing. But that sort of scope is very small compared to what it actually is all about. So what I kind of experienced on my placements was the hospital setting of physio. So I worked in like the ICU, the intensive care unit. I worked in emergency, like the medical and surgical wards. So physio, fun fact, a lot of people don't know this, but we do a lot of chest physio. So people with breathing conditions who can't breathe and have, no, it can be a bit disgusting for some people, but phlegm that gets stuck in their chest, we can help bring it up so they can essentially breathe better. We can do it by like suctioning, by helping them breathe, like by bagging them. So there's a whole different avenues in that sort of area. So on my placement in an ICU, I really was like, well, this is what I want to do. So that's kind of where my head was at the end of my degree in terms of the area, whether it was like private or hospital. So I was like, yep, hospitals for me, private, not so much. So yeah, in terms of that. And then in terms of coming back, like what I wanted to experience, like in my new grad years, I wanted that external support of the family, in a place where I can develop really good foundational skills that I can build upon in my career. So I think it's very important to find a workplace where they really nurture your learning and take the time to really help. If you've got questions, you have like the ability to ask questions. But yeah, so that was kind of where my head was at the end of my degree.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's a big lesson as well at the end there, of like your education doesn't stop once you get your piece of paper at all. And if you're in a type of workplace where they have that idea, it's probably not going to be great for your growth long term. All right, and then yeah, what about yourself? Did you have kind of a moment or even like a mentor that helped solidify to you that this was the right pathway?
So during my physio degree, I was always second guessing myself, like, am I on the right path? Like, is this for me? Because like you said about that barrier of the real world, like you learn all this knowledge and it's like, do I actually want to do physio? Like, I don't really know. And it's like 4 years of your life is pretty daunting to be like, I don't know if this is for me. But I had a moment on one of my placements where I was in like a neurological sort of brain injury clinic, private clinic. And I had a patient I was working with like every day. It was one-on-one essentially. And she'd had breast cancer and had radiation, and which damaged her lungs. So she was on oxygen 24/7 and using a walker. She was young too, but she had a goal. We're really about goals as physios. What you want to achieve was to walk her daughter down the aisle for a wedding without oxygen and without a walker. So I worked every day with her. I was walking outside on the grass with an oxygen bottle, practicing. Cars were driving past, but we still did it every day, just to practice and help build up her endurance, her strength to be able to do that. Anyway, 2 days before the placement ended, she came in with photos of her walking her daughter down the aisle with no oxygen and no walker, and also doing like the mother-daughter dance. We were both crying, and that was when I was like, yeah, no, this is for me. That really hit home and like filled my cup in that sense of like, yeah, I want to be doing that and helping people.
Yeah, that's super powerful. Yeah, that's pretty. I feel like that would encourage everyone that you're definitely doing the right things. And again, I think we're touching on a lot of the same themes almost accidentally, that there's got to be a bit of heart in it, like to be able to have that emotional attachment to what you do as well. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to bring everyone back together now, bring the whole panel together and unpack a few different things. So lots of opportunities around and lots of different ways to build a career. So first, I'm going to ask Georgia and Harry a question. So as we've identified, neither of you two are locals. So what kind of brought you here in the first place, and what made you want to stay and build your career? Harry, do you want to start for us?
Yeah, sure. I remember seeing the question and thinking I didn't exactly sort of choose the Whitsundays in a sense. I mean, it wasn't like I had a bunch of options on paper. I thought, yeah, that's the place I want to go. I first came to Mackay in 2017, and I was sort of coming out of the end of a downturn, and it was quiet. I came from Brisbane, and I thought, man, there's nothing going on here. Yeah, but I sort of loved the work. I figured I'd give it a go. And it wasn't until I actually started to get out and sort of be a part of the community, started playing social sports and made some friends here, and even just sort of with the people at work, and ended up building a house here that, well, I guess I'd made the decision before I built the house that it was a place I wanted to stay. I found the work fascinating as well. So it wasn't sort of a direct choice, but I chose to stay.
What social sports are you doing? Where are we going to come and see you playing on the weekend?
Pickleball. There's a tournament coming up at the end of the month. However, I have torn my ACL and my knee for the second time now. So I won't be playing this time, but maybe by the end of the year. So.
Oh, yeah. I think I might know someone who could help you with that. But Georgia, I'll let you tell us how you kind of made your way here, and what helped influence those decisions, and I guess even why you've stayed.
Yeah, similar to Harry, it wasn't necessarily a direct, I'm moving to Greater Whitsundays. Canberra winter escape was a big driver. Was kind of sick of that. My partner and I agreed we wanted to move somewhere else, try something different, get some new experiences. And he's a teacher, so we had to narrow it to a state, because they've got different registrations for every state. So we decided on Queensland. And it was kind of like a roll the dice of see who gets a job first. He got a job in Mackay. I had a bit of a Google about what Mackay was, because before that, honestly, didn't know where it was really. And looked at it and said, yep, that looks big enough that I can get a job. So quit my job in Canberra. We moved up. And I probably spent about 6 weeks doing swim teaching, which was my uni high school job. And then I found the job with GW3. So I started in our workforce development team. So, stuff like this that's Tayah's running at the moment, our regional jobs committee, Future Finder website, things like that is what I was working on when I first joined. And then I've moved into our decarbonisation space, which is obviously very aligned to my degree. And that's really working around helping support small businesses to decarbonise their operations, save money, and obviously impact the environment positively. And then the other part that's cool, which I had no idea existed in this region, is in the biomanufacturing space. So that's a new industry. It's think taking sugar and turning it into milk or eggs, and it's biologically identical, really cool stuff happening in a regional location. So that's kind of joining GW3 opened my eyes to what was possible in this region, things I hadn't thought about before. So that was, really similar to Harry, that I came here and then went, actually, this is a really cool place to stay. I think the lifestyle piece is obviously a big one as well, right? Amazing things to do on the weekends, lots of places to explore and see. So having that combination of being able to have, do what I'm passionate about and make an impact in my work, and then a place that I really enjoy and love sending photos to my family in Canberra to show them how amazing it is. That's probably the piece that helps make you stay.
Yeah, I can definitely. I know a lot of my family's based here, but even I do Zoom calls here and people say, is that blue sky behind you like a background or AI? And you go, this is beautiful, Mackay. All right, what about you, Tayah? So you obviously were born and raised here, so why didn't you flee and go to the big cities and whatnot? I know you mentioned your family and whatnot. Why was it important for you to stay here?
Well, my initial leaving of Mackay, I thought I was going to flee and not come back, see the world. I grew up here, didn't really travel much, and I wanted to go, explore the world without my family. I thought it'd be grown up. However, during the degree, I really actually missed my family a lot. I very close with them, but my grandparents especially. At the end of a lot of degrees in Townsville especially, a lot of people go on that sort of travel kick and go explore the world before they start their career. So I was kind of tossing up, do I travel or do I find a job at home with my family. And I guess at the end of the day, my priorities were my family, my grandparents. I got nieces and nephews that were born. So I was like, oh, Mackay's not too bad. I'm better. But came back, and it's honestly been a game changer for me in terms of like not because I've got a lot of friends obviously who work all over Queensland and even Melbourne in terms of physio, and learning like a new environment, like a new city, new town, as well as not knowing anyone, not having that like sort of foundational like family, friends established, as well as a new job, new career, all these new learnings, really was daunting for me. So I was like, oh, it made it so much easier coming back home. And I know my parents were very happy, but coming back home to Mackay, and I've honestly, it's sort of a different sense now coming back. It's the distance makes a heart grow fonder or something like that saying. I really am loving Mackay and seeing it from a different perspective, obviously from being a child to now.
I was going to say probably the Tayah that left Mackay versus the one that came back after all of those learnings and experiences is kind of a different one. So
for sure, 100%.
Yeah,
Pickleball community, Harry. Got a lot of patients who love it, so very popular.
There you go. So we're learning lots of new things today, but yeah, I know I had that thought when I was younger. I was dying to get out of here, and I thought, all terrible things about my hometown, like every angsty teenager does. And then now I love it. You could put me on the tourism board. I love the place. All right then, so we're going to kind of open it up now to the whole panel. So back when you were starting out, I think this is a really good part of the regional piece. Do you think that kind of being in a regional or smaller area helped open opportunities that you might not have had in a bigger city? That idea of, even Georgia, you touched on, an office of 1,000 people versus being in Mackay or in the Greater Whitsunday regions in general. Do you feel like you got a bit more hands-on?
Yeah, I would say definitely that was a key driver for me to try something different. I got amazing exposure in my KPMG job, but you often do something and you don't see the end result, and that's what I wanted. So I wanted to join an organization where I can actually see the impact that I was having more directly. So I think regional places really open that up. Also, there's less people, right? So there's more opportunity for you. So there's been opportunities at GW3 that I never would have had if I was still, in Canberra, where I'm competing with 1,000 other people, because there is still that tendency, right, to prioritize experience in the sense of how many years old you are, rather than what your knowledge and skills actually are. Whereas in the regional locations, I've gone and spoken at a whole range of different conferences. I get to go to, meetings with different stakeholders where I'm sitting in the room as someone who's talking with expertise and experience. And so you're kind of, I would say, not held back by your age as much, and it comes down to more what your experience and skills actually are.
Yeah, definitely. Tayah, Harry, can you guys speak to that idea of being able to get a bit more down to nuts and bolts in the regional area?
Yeah, I 6 months in, I became the physio team social rep. So I planned like the pub crawls, all that sort of Christmas parties. So that was, I know my friends in Cairns and Brizzy definitely aren't social reps yet, and also talking about taking on students, but it's that one-on-one. You can work with your senior. They don't have multiple people they're looking after. They've got like 3 or 4, so you can talk to them and you can work with them, do like work shadows where you watch them with a patient and they can watch you and give feedback, which it was amazing when you're learning. But also the hierarchical systems in like the bigger like metro sort of hospitals are very competitive. They've got like hundreds of new grad physios graduating in Brizzy, so very limited jobs. So it's very competitive, and it's kind of, you work your way up there, and it's a lot harder to people in the same position for years, whereas here it's constantly moving, new staff, and just, it's very refreshing in a smaller area, I reckon.
Yeah. Definitely. Did you have any to add to that one, Harry?
My experience was exactly the same. I've worked for 2 small companies, and it's meant that I get to put my hands on a much wider variety of jobs, and to a much deeper level as well. And like Georgia said, sort of see the direct impact of the work that I do as well. It's been really good, and it's actually been quite a good fit at small companies, because they can only hire sort of a few people, and they hire somebody with a diverse skill set. It's been a big benefit for them as well, I think.
Yeah, I think I talked to some of my uni friends who are now in cities and whatnot, and they're kind of a cog in a system in a tiny part of a side of a machine. Like, it's not even, they might never meet a client. And if we were in the same kind of role, they might never meet even the client. They might only work with internal teams that then speak to higher ups that speak to higher ups. Whereas, we get to go and hit the ground, really, which is, I think, really exciting for all of us. All right, we're going to just open it up a bit and get into some Q&A. How do you balance work with life, study, and other interests? I know you mentioned that at one time you were not very good at balancing it. So,
yeah, I think look for the social groups in your area. I mean, didn't have anyone that I really knew aside from the people that I worked with when I came in. So a lot of them they're in different stages of life, so they've got kids and families. When you're sort of 22, they don't really want to hang out with you outside of work, even though you get on really well at work. So I think the biggest help for me was looking for other groups out there. There's a young professionals group here. There's a lot of people with undergraduate degrees who sort of get together. I think there's a social drinks tomorrow night, Friday night.
I was just going to give that same shout out.
Yeah, so I'll be there, and be looking for social sports as well. So I took up pickleball because I injured my knee the first time, and it turned out to be the best sort of social group that I found. Really, there's a lot of social sports out there. People really want to connect. And there's a lot of great people and people in a similar situation who've moved here and don't know anyone. So
yeah, definitely. I would throw into the ring there as well, like even all your hobby groups. And Georgia can probably speak to this, volunteering. Volunteer to do something for free for someone. I know I've volunteered at animal rescue and go and fundraise for people, whatnot. It really helps you meet a lot of people and get some experience. Georgia, I'll jump to you then. So what helped you stand out when you were starting out? You've talked about being that kind of big pond. So how did you stand out?
Yeah, I think it's about advocating for yourself and what you can do. So even at KPMG, you have big cohorts of graduates. So again, we probably had at least 100 of us there. So that's the, people who you're competing to do something, ahead of them. So I think you have to kind of really advocate for what you want to do and why you're the person to do it. I had a lot of fellow grads who were like, oh, I really want to do this, but I'm too nervous to talk to the partner or the head boss about this. Whereas I would just go straight to that and say, I really want to do X, Y, Z because of these reasons. And I think doing that is what opens the doors, because no one's going to hand you that opportunity or experience because they don't know you want it and they don't know why you're going to be good at it until you tell them. So that's probably the big thing I think about how you stand out, is actually knowing what you're good at. It's not being, up yourself or anything like that. As long as you actually can do it, sharing that is a really positive thing. And that's the thing that opens up doors and opportunities. And I think, like things like the Plastic Oceans volunteer role that I did, again, no one was in the region doing it. So they wouldn't have known that I was there and interested. And if I hadn't have reached out, then they wouldn't have considered it. So I think that's the really important thing in my eyes.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll apologize. Being in an industrial area, a truck is just sitting right outside the door, so if it's a bit noisy. But that proactivity is like such a huge piece, especially like you say, when you're in a group of people. And it's one thing I say to students is that, you guys are all living at the exact same time. What is your point of difference? So anything you can do to stand out and taking those opportunities and exploring is great. All right, Tayah, we're going to ask you a question, then we're going to jump off to our next section. So we've kind of hinted at this, but did you ever feel like pressure to leave the region to be like quote unquote successful? I know there's that kind of misconception about it. Did you ever feel that personally?
Not really, because of that. So I guess how it's broken up into, like, you're a new grad, they call it HP3, where you build up your experience and then you can become a senior, and then from there the senior boss, all that sort of thing. There's whole different levels in like the Brizzy big sort of hospitals, very competitive, like I said. So it's very hard to be able to become a senior one day because there's so many people up the ladder before you. But we're here, there's less staff, there's more sort of gaps that can be like identified where like a senior there's like positions that can come in the future that I've been told as well. So it's very much more opportunity here in terms of that really progressing in your career compared to, I know, in Brisbane or like the big cities, even Cairns as well. I've heard is can be a bit competitive as well. But yeah, no, I haven't ever really thought about moving since starting here.
To go, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think thankfully that kind of misconception is dying out a bit, but I know for years it was a really big pressure of that, like we kind of hinted at, that staying in your hometown is almost a failure, which
Yeah.
I think couldn't be more wrong. Yeah, not when we live in such an incredible, capable region. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for those answers. They were really, really helpful as usual. A lot that students can take away. So I guess we'll finish it up with something short and punchy and whatnot. So one quick piece of advice from each of you. So whether it seems simple or obvious or whatnot, short, punchy, one sentence, something you maybe wish you'd been told along the way. What's your thought you can leave us all with? I'll start with you, Georgia.
I'm just going to use my piece of advice to answer a question that's come through in the Q&A around, is there a website or portal where you can search career opportunities? Yes, Greater Whitsunday Future Finder. So that's something we developed last year that really details out the really exciting career opportunities and spaces across the Greater Whitsunday region. So we'll put it in the chat, but it's www.greaterwhitsundayfuturefinder.com.au. And that's a great way to start exploring what options there are. My actual piece of advice that I would give outside of that is to really explore what opportunities you can have by asking people and sharing what you know. So as I said, advocate for yourself. But if you see something that someone's doing that you think is really cool or exciting and you don't have enough information, just contact them, email them, call them, whatever it might be. You'd be surprised how many people will actually get back to you and will want to share their experience. So yeah, reach out and ask questions as much as you can.
Right, perfect. Harry, what's your one sentence punchy advice for everyone?
Mine would be, I guess, directed at anyone thinking of a technical career in engineering. It would definitely be to sort of try and develop, I think, your CAD skills. That's been the biggest benefit to me in my career. It seems to be what employers have liked the most, has been being able to sort of do any 3D modeling. That's been a really big help. So something simple.
Cool. All right, Tayah, you're going to finish us up with some incredible advice.
No pressure. I guess my sort of advice is not to stress if you don't know what you want to do. Just try something you might like with me, HP and sport, and that's why I went the physio path. But even if you don't like what you're doing, you can always change. Like I have friends who've started physio, did medicine, or they've graduated and become a business owner. So it gives you whatever career degree can give you, or TAFE or course can give you skills for other things. So it's just try different things. But I even asked my dad, and he always says, I still don't know what I'm doing, and he's 54. So you'll never quite know. So it's just give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can inject myself, I'll say that one little check that I kind of started coming up with is the idea of it's supposed to be fun. All of this is supposed to be fun. And I take it to, friendships, relationships, work, engagements, everything. Like, this is supposed to be fun. Is it fun? No. How can we fix that? All right then. So that's going to basically be our wrap up. So it really enforces everything we've been talking about. So there's no single right path. There's just your path. There's lots of different ways to get there, and plenty of opportunities in the space right here in the Greater Whitsunday region. I remember one thing I heard from a career counsellor was that we're past the days where you're the milkman when you graduate and you stay the milkman until you retire. There's so many careers that you can switch and jump, exactly what Tayah was talking about. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashleigh. I just want to say a huge thank you for being part of today's conversation. And what we've heard really reinforces that there's no single right pathway for any career journey. Careers can start in lots of different places, take a few turns, and still lead to meaningful work, especially here in the Greater Whitsunday region.
Big careers, bright futures. Think Greater Whitsunday.